Thank you for joining me today. This is Passion Coach Robin, and this is the second in a series of five classes sharing the 5 keys to ignite as a force for good in your life. Your life, if you think of it as a silk scarf, it's a creation of strength, and yet it's delicately been woven by an diligent, or started, I should say, the weaving came later, but a diligent little innocent worm whose work was simply to create a silk thread started that silk scarf. And then those threads were woven together and dyed with colors of joy, of pain, of tragedy, and celebration to make the scarf that represents your life. The thorn bush represents the perils and the challenges of life, together with your own subconscious thoughts. So it's crucial to carefully and mindfully lift that beautiful scarf of experience into an existence that is free of the thorns. Well, ultimately, um, when you lift it and you are able to lift it up and let the light come through, and it radiates those colors, that rainbow of colors around your existence. So naturally, what does this mean? It's about how all of our paths are unique, and that the path has left scars that have built a system of paradigms, the systems of thought that are lodged down in our subconscious as belief systems. And to lift that silk scarf and just pull it off the thorn bush is actually can do more harm than it can do good. So it's very important to be careful in lifting that silk scarf. So let me share one other metaphor with you, and this is of a glass of muddy water. So you've got a glass of dirty water, and you want to turn it into clean water. So you put the glass under the tap and you start pouring in clear water. And as that clear water enters the glass, the silt from the bottom of the glass gets stirred up and it rises to the top and it overflows the edges of the glass. And ultimately, if you keep that tap running and keep pouring the clear water in, that dirty water overflows and leaves cleaner water behind. Now, the truth is, the water never gains complete clarity, except for, of course, very few great masters in history. Total clarity, which is absence of fear and any other muddying influences, is a lifelong practice for all of us. So I'm going to get to the topic of today, which is scraping that inner barrel. What do I mean by that? The inner barrel that I'm talking about is like this glass of muddy water or the thorn bush. It's crusted with life's experiences. And to successfully begin to reprogram our thought processes, those paradigms that are holding on to that muddy water, are holding on and maintaining that thorny bush, in order to successfully to begin to reprogram those paradigms without tearing the fabric, without tearing the scarf, we need to gain clarity on our goals. Just goals for now. They don't have to be 10 years out into the future. They can be just for today, or they might be for the next week or a little bit further. Other people often talk about finding our inner child, and it is important to fully recognize the scars that our childhood has left, those part of that mud, part of that scraping of the inner barrel. But it's also important to recapture that youthful exuberance and the simplicity of the child who can look at life in awe. So, what I subscribe to, though, is not stopping there. We don't want to just reconnect with our inner child. But we ought to actually merge the inner child and the innocent intent of youth and that playfulness together with the mature woman who has valuable insight and experience. To bring the two together, that's where the real beauty and the real magic begins. So, in starting that process, we take a look at where we stand right now and where do we want to be this week, this month, in 3 months, in 6 months. The goals that we set now are going to change over time. Life changes and our perspective grows, but we can start by taking an inventory of our lives in what I call life's domain. Essentially, now it's let's see, it would be a hexagon. It's got 6 sides, and within the hexagon, there's concentric hexagons so that it looks like a spider's web, okay, but a geometric one. So on one of those edges of the hexagon, we have happiness, we have physical health, we have mental health, we have relationships, we have purpose, and we have personal growth. So there's 6 sides in this particular case of our lives that we're going to look at. Now, um, each of those sides, and because there are concentric hexagons in this web, you actually put a little dot when you print out this form. You put a little dot as to where you think you rate from 0 to 100. 0 is the center of the web, and 100 is over on the edge. And each of the divisions in between is like 20%. So you rate yourself on happiness. How happy are you? You rate yourself on physical health. How healthy are you physically? On personal growth, where do you feel you fit on that scale of 0 to 100 on personal growth? Purpose, in fulfilling your purpose in life. Knowing your purpose is part of that too. Relationships, how healthy and happy are the relationships in your lives? And mental health would be having to do with, I guess, mental health would have to be stress, would have to be depression, and how well you're doing on a day-to-day basis with regards to your emotional health, emotional and mental health. Now, I'm going to I have a second page that actually goes over the specifics for each of those areas. So happiness is the overall daily sense of wellness and pleasure, ease in facing the new day, level of enthusiasm, physical health, the frequency of your daily activity, your exercise, not your fitness scores. That's not what I'm interested in, but definitely how well your body functions is diagnosed by a physician, and physical pain should be considered. Then the mental health, like I said, has to do with stress, worry, depression, anger, other emotions that may prevent full out participation. Relationships, I think that's self-explanatory. Not how many friends do you have, but how deep of a real satisfaction do you feel toward your relationships, including your husband, including your family, your friends. Are the relationships in your life satisfying? Personal growth, again, we've explained that, and purpose. Purpose is what we're going to dive into a little bit more today. Have you identified your why? Your drive to accomplish something outside of self. So you might want it for your why, you might want to start with how you want to be remembered. Okay, we all eventually are not going to be here. We're all going to pass beyond, whatever that means for each of us. How do you want to be remembered? And how satisfied are you with your progress, I'm sorry, toward accomplishing it? Now, keep in mind, masters like Buddha and Jesus and others have maybe accomplished that 100%, but I don't think so. I think that even them, they may have been 98 or whatever. We don't want to judge ourselves too harshly on that purpose, on that why. Give ourselves a break and think about it. Now, doing this, you're going to need some time. This is to be effective. You can't just put dots down and throw it aside. You've got to be effective at this and not rush through it. We really want to seriously consider what's going on in our lives and where we're happy and where we could improve on our self-determined scale of success, 0 to 100. So, because of the depth of this exercise, it's also very important to have someone outside of yourself, a coach, to help you review it and decide not only what your next steps are, but what's appropriate for you as far as where you are on that path of lifting that silk scarf. So it's very important not to just jump into this and go for it, but to have somebody who supports you. I'm hoping that within the tribe itself, our group, that will grow and that will become an area of support. But definitely, I will be in there on a daily basis, able to answer questions and provide some level of support. Um, the coaching is something that we can discuss later. So, as a coach, some of the things that we would cover would be customizing the affirmations that we discussed before, as to help reprogram your subconscious, to design very specific visualizations for you according to the goals that we set in this exercise, and designing and setting daily actions that can make a difference. Now, we started with that yesterday with the Savers program. But what we're layering on that now is what is it that you want to accomplish and how are you going to get there? And more importantly, why? Because if we don't understand why, we're going to stop. Okay, we're not going to take it. We'll be motivated for a while, but as we all know, life happens. Life happens. And when that surprise or that overwhelm enters into our lives, we put things on the back burners that we don't know why we're doing them. Okay, they suddenly become unimportant. I can relate to for this as a person who has been on the roller coaster of life. There have been times when I've been very diligently on my self development. I've studied yoga, I've studied with masters, I've read books, I've studied as a minister, I've done meditation for most of my life. But there have been times when that all stopped. So it's the important to know your why so it doesn't stop, so that we keep making progress. Okay, and the why sometimes has to be tied to precisely what you want to accomplish. That's why, again, we work with a coach to figure out our goals. And this is not staying accountable and tracking your progress. It can be, but it doesn't have to be that. And in fact, I don't even really subscribe to that. What I subscribe to is understanding why you want to accomplish that and keep yourself focused on doing it, not on letting overwhelm or fear or your mindset, your fear of um, what is it called, imposter syndrome, show up in your life and and bring you to a roaring halt. No, we want to know what our goal is and we want to know why we want to achieve it. So I suggest in doing this why exercise that you ask yourself, pick it if you can't, if purpose is too big, if you haven't identified what it is that you want to accomplish, how you want to be remembered in life. If you haven't identified that yet, let's start somewhere slower. Pick one of the 8 or 6 areas on that scale that is less than satisfactory for you. And ask yourself what you'd like to accomplish for that particular item and just what it is you'd like to do and pick a goal. And then ask yourself, why? Why is that important to me? And as you go down and continue to ask yourself that why, in other words, we don't want to ask it just once. We ask it twice, we ask it 3 times, all at the same time. Okay, so what do I mean? I think this may be confusing. Um, let's, well, okay. If you add, let me take an example. Let's say for me, let's say physical fitness is something I'd like to work on. So I ask myself, why? I want to feel better about myself. Well, why do I want to feel better about myself? Well, I'd like to have greater confidence. Well, why do you want greater confidence? So you see where I'm going with this. This is an example, but you want to work layers down. And most people, when they hit the fifth layer, they go, oh, expletive. I, I don't know. But you got to push yourself and you got to keep going until you really get that compelling why. So I'm going to do a little exercise with you that unfortunately, again, I was hoping to be able to share my screen. I can't do that. So I'm going to do this just au naturel. So what I want everybody to do, please, is sit up straight. You really should have your back supported so you feel comfortable and supported. And put your arms, relax your arms, consciously relax your shoulders. And we're going to breathe. And we're just going to take some slow breaths in to the count of 3. And then we're going to hold it for a moment. And then we're going to release to the count of 3. Now, I'm not going to do this counting with you. I will the first time. But we're going to do this breathing, just deep breathing, pulling from the bottom of your torso, your solar plexus. Pull the air up from the very bottom of your torso, up through your spine. You could even imagine it going into your head behind your eyes. Breathe it in, hold it, and relax and let it out. Okay, let's try that. So close your eyes, sit in a relaxed position, but with your spine straight, and breathe in. Hold it. And as you breathe out, relax and let those shoulders drop. Now we're going to take another breath in. Hold it. And relax. And on this third breath in, I want you to bring the breath up behind your eyes and imagine, if you can, just imagine calm, peaceful blue color. Breathe in and breathe out. Now imagine that you're on the edge of a beach, looking over the sand and the water, but you have to go down some rocks to really get to it. And it's such a beautiful day. You really want to go down there. So you step carefully, 1 foot, 1 step at a time. And once you get down those rocks, your feet sink into the warm sand and you continue to walk toward the edge of the water, the sand flowing under your feet and supporting you with that warmth. And as you walk, slowly that sand becomes a little more solid. As you get closer to the water, it's a little bit damp, a little bit cooler, and it supports you. And just before you reach the coolness of the water, you stop. You gaze out over the horizon. There's nothing there, just the beautiful, beautiful ocean. You look up the beach, and no one's there. And you look down the beach. Again, no one is there. You look forward again, and you simply see that beautiful, beautiful blue-green ocean. And you gaze at its beauty, and you see that sparkling sun that's dancing on the tips of the water. And you breathe in that beauty. Breathe and relax in the warmth of the day. And as you gaze out over the horizon, you notice something. Something seems to be approaching. Just a small speck for now, but it's out there. And you wonder what its cargo might be. Is it people? Is it goods? Or is it a sailboat simply out enjoying the beautiful, beautiful day on this calm ocean? Who could be on that boat and why? It doesn't really concern you, it just adds to the calm beauty of the horizon. So you breathe deep and you relax and you breathe and you relax. You decide to turn and move back into that warm sand. And you choose one of those rocks that you came down to sit on. You sit down and turn around and look at the ocean and you wiggle your toes back into that warm, wonderful sand. But you continue to wonder why? 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 The warm sand on your feet relaxes you further and you breathe deeply to take it all in while you wonder why. As you sit there gazing at the horizon, you come to realize that the why has nothing to do with that speck on the horizon. It has to do with you. And it's up to you to recognize it. Why am I here? Why am I on this path to better health, to a better enjoyment of life, to better relationships? to a deeper personal growth and purpose? Why? You relax, you feel the warm sun, you put your head back and you let the rays of the sun just pour down on you, caressing your face. And you continue to breathe the clean, enriching air. Breathe. Understanding that the answers are all there, just as accessible as the sun and the ocean air are for you now. Breathe in and breathe out. You decide it's time to return. You slowly get up from the rock. You turn and carefully step back up, one stone at a time, one step at a time, to where you started. Breathing and relaxed, you return. Open your eyes. Well, I hope you enjoyed that little journey, and I hope that my voice came across clearly. And, well, if you'd like a recording of that little guided journey to use on your own, again, use the link that's posted there or DM me your email address and I'll send it to you. I want to leave you today with a quote by William Hutchinson Murray. Has anybody got any idea who that is? Excuse me. He's a Scottish mountaineer and a writer who actually was responsible for finding the pass that allowed Mount Everest to be scaled for the first time in history back in 1953, my birth year. And I want to tell you a little bit about his story first, and then I'll tell you his quote. Murray was an accomplished mountaineer, and he'd been through the war, and he was recovering, and he was, as a writer, not a wealthy man, and yet he really loved mountaineering and everything about it. Well, a gentleman by the name of Sir Edmund Hillary, who was wealthy and also a mountaineer, came to him and started asking him, almost pestering him, to please come with him on a journey to scale Mount Everest. And Murray refused. And the reason he refused is because he recognized that he was still in a process of recovery, and after all, he really didn't have the money. So he kindly, but he refused Sir Edmund Hillary. Well, Hillary came back at least 3 times over a period of, I think it was probably 5 years. And finally, Murray relented and he agreed that he would go. He recognized over that period of 5 years that if he didn't make the commitment, you know, how was he ever going to be a part of history? That was his why. So he agreed to go, and he ended up going with a different crew than Hillary, and he went by at the moment of making that decision, he put down a deposit, and over the next period of time, because it takes time to pull together all of the supplies and everything that's required to scale Mount Everest, it was several months, if not a year. He was able, just miraculously, things came together for him so that he could go. The money was there, he didn't expect it, and everything fell into place for him to go. Well, he did go, and he did discover the path that Hillary ultimately used. But here he's got, I want you to listen to his quote about this whole experience. He says, until one is committed, there is hesitancy, the chance to draw back. Concerning all acts of initiative and creation, there is one elementary truth, the ignorance of which kills countless ideas and splendid plans. That the moment one definitely commits oneself, then providence moves too. All sorts of things occur to help one that would never otherwise have occurred. A whole stream of events issues from the decision, raising in one's favor all manner of unforeseen incidents and meetings and material assistance, which no man could have dreamed of, would have come his way. I have learned great respect for one of Goethe's couplets. And the couplet is, whatever you can do or dream can do, begin it. Boldness has genius, power, and magic in it. Begin it now. So that's the story of Murray and the scaling of Mount Everest. I also want to remind you of a quote attributed to Carl Sagan that goes, the absence of evidence is not evidence of absence. So, in other words, not having proof of how you're going to accomplish your goals in advance doesn't mean you cannot achieve them. And also doesn't mean that the resources required to come together for you to accomplish it are not going to come together. They do, miraculously, as Murray indicates, miraculously they do. So that's why we're doing this exercise, to scrape the inner sides of that barrel to gain insight and knowledge as to what your deepest motivation is, so you won't stop. We want you to make progress along that path that's uniquely yours and not comparable to anybody else's. You're a unique being. You have unique needs, you have unique dreams, you have unique ways of getting there. That's why working with me or a coach of your choice is important to support you in finding those insights that you were before unaware of, to find that path to successfully scale the Mount Everest of your life and reach the summit of happiness for yourself. So, I apologize again for some of the technical difficulties. Are there any comments or questions? Do we have anything in the audience that anybody would like to offer? What do you think? Put a one in the comments if you're motivated to find your deepest why. That's number one. And then put a one if you're motivated to do that. If you're not, go ahead and put a two. And then in understanding your why, did you find your purpose? Or was it the other way around? It really is very unique to each individual. Sometimes knowing your purpose is what helps you generate your why. But sometimes knowing why actually helps you dig into what your true purpose is. Thank you, Lori. So we'll see you tomorrow. We'll see you at the same time, same place, I hope. Bring your friends. Join Blue Sky Lifestyle Tribe. I'm sure you have if you're here today, but your friends will need to do that. And you can access these live videos as well as the past videos pinned to the top under featured. And don't forget, whatever you do, to reach for your blue sky and achieve that lifestyle of your dreams. This is Passion Coach Robin Eschler. I'll see you tomorrow. Thanks for joining me.